Now, despite cooler conditions expected across parts of New South Wales today, firefighters are on high alert after a second mega blaze formed late last night. Let's go now to reporter Mark Reddie at Jindabyne in the New South Wales snowy mountains. And Mark, after that difficult day and night, we are relieved that there's been no loss of life, but there were some injuries.
Yeah, sadly so. A man remains in a serious condition after suffering horrific burns while trying to fight the fires around his home south of Tumbarumba on the western side of the Great Dividing Range. That range, of course, national park that stretches all the way down to Kosciuszko, down here to the Snowy Mountains and Jindabyne. Now, that man was flown to Wagga Hospital by a water bomber, a sign of just how bad these conditions were, that it was hard for crews to get in there to airlift him out. He was treated there before being transferred to the burns unit at Concord Hospital in Sydney, where he is expected to undergo surgery a bit later today. We also know that 4 firefighters have suffered injuries, 1 heat stress and 3 minor burns. That happened while they were defending a fire encroaching remote farms just to the west of Adaminaby, which is southwest of Canberra, northwest of Cooma. Former Prime Minister Tony Abbott was out fighting that fire as well, and an ambulance made its way down that way, but it was very difficult because there are dirt roads and a lot of forest around there, so there were concerns that that fire, when it was a watching at, could swing around to an emergency level. Thankfully, that didn't happen. Those northwesterly winds eventually died down, and then the southerly came in and pushed that fire back into the national park. The concern, though, is if that fire continues burning that way and the conditions deteriorate, then it could encroach on the outskirts of Canberra.
So, Mark, you've pointed out there a certain concern regarding that particular blaze, but overall, what is the picture looking like today with where the focus will be?
Yeah, so earlier today a fire broke out around the Port Stephens area, north of Newcastle, just east of Anna Bay, and flames were coming quite close to properties this morning. Thankfully, the conditions really eased. The southerly winds they're not as strong now, and the temperatures have dropped and the humidity has risen. So that is enabling fire crews to get a upper hand on these fires. There's still more than 140 burning right across the state, almost half of which are still uncontained. The focus today will be about backburning around properties, but also on the far south coast at Eden and stretching up to Bateman's Bay. Of course, that was where the real damage happened just days ago on the weekend. And so the concern there is not only creating those fire breaks, which the Army is doing, but also focusing on the recovery effort and trying to make sure that some of those villages and towns are able to try and rebuild. So one of them is Mogo. 70% of that town was wiped out by bushfire, including most of the main street. Some of those houses are still without power. So in one stage it's about backburning, the other stage is about recovery.
Our reporter Mark Reddie there in Jindabyne in the Snowy Mountains region of New South Wales.